Yo, Shuffle Squad, welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 best decks for the Charlotte Regional. Charlotte is going to be one of the last tournaments in the Silver Tempest format. I know a lot of people are very happy about that. The format is really interesting right now, and over the past couple tournaments we've had, the format's actually shifted quite a bit, especially since I last did one of these top 5 best deck videos for said tournament. So I'm excited to get into it. If y'all are going to go on to enjoy the video, make sure to like on the video and also subscribe down below to the channel. And let me know in the comments below if you agree with this top 5 ranking. And then let me know if you're going to Charlotte. I will be there. Most of the Shovel Squad will be at Charlotte too, so if you want to come up and say hi, you can. Check out our sponsors down below too if you want. Also, like Atlas and like your playmat and all that good stuff. But let's go take a look at what I think are the top 5 best decks for the Charlotte Regionals. Coming in number 5 is, surprisingly enough, Lost Box. Lost Box has kind of fallen off a little bit on this ranking. It hasn't been getting a lot of top 8s recently, and that's a very big deal. It's missed a couple top 8s in some of the past tournaments we've had in the past little while, and that's very relevant because Lost Box, a lot of people consider to be like one of the best decks, consistently has ranked second on these lists. It's the second most played deck in most of the regionals, will probably continue to be the second most played deck in Charlotte, but overall, it just hasn't been doing as well. And we'll talk about later on the list why Lost Box has kind of fallen down a peg. Because it's out in the number 5 spot and even kind of is being hindered by what we also have on the list. Now, Lost Box is still good, and there are a lot of ways to play it. We got the Rayquaza build here from Knoxville. We got Kyogre. We got Dragonite. You got the Raikou builds with Zamazenta. So definitely the deck is still good. There's many ways to play it, but again, it's been falling off a little bit, and I think a lot of people are really starting to tech and beat it, and it's a big deal when it's not been getting the most consistent top 8s. It's missed out on a few top 8s in some big tournaments for the past couple weeks, and that has been showing that Lost Box could finally be not on its way out, because, I mean, it's like the second last term of the season, but it just means that Lost Box doesn't... people have just been ready to beat it and have been able to beat it so much that it just hasn't been able to break top 8s as often as it used to, and that's pretty relevant. So I had to put Lost Box at number 5. It's still going to be very popular, and in my opinion, your deck still has to beat Lost Box because it's obviously still going to be popular. It's most likely to be the second most played deck in Charlotte. Even if it hasn't been making top 8 that recently, it's still probably going to be like the second most played deck because everyone kind of gravitates towards it. It's obviously a lot harder to play, and that could be the reason. A lot of the better players have maybe not been playing Lost Box as much recently, which has caused some of the not as great players to play it, and then their conversion rate to day 2 isn't as good. The deck's very hard to pilot. Very, very difficult to pilot Lost Box consistently. And I think that may be part of the reason why it's been kind of not, I wouldn't call it flopping, but definitely hasn't, maybe it has been flopping. I don't know. It hasn't been getting those top 5s. And I think that is reason alone to put it at number 5. Again, it's still going to be a very popular deck, regardless of whether or not it's been getting top 8s at all, because it's just, you know, people want to play it. But I definitely think that in terms of power rankings, it's definitely probably the number 5 spot at this current point in time, looking at these past couple tournaments with Utrecht and with Vancouver. Number 4 is actually Goodra. Now, this is an interesting spot because Goodra, a lot of people consider to be a bad deck, but its consistent top 8 placements now, especially getting second in Vancouver and getting like 2 top 8 placements in Utrecht, is really showing that Goodra is a force to be reckoned with. It's now starting to break into the top 8 more consistently than it was before, and it's kind of no longer just what people consider to be a meme. And we actually could see a big spike in Goodra popularity in Charlotte. I actually think we will. It's not a hard deck to play, in my opinion. It's also very good at beating Lost Box. It beats Reggie's. It hasn't, I guess people figured out it can beat Goodra or Lugia and Mew, I guess, and it's a big reason why Goodra is starting to do more consistently good now, and it's maybe one of the reasons why we've seen Lost Box fall down a peg is because Goodra's been doing a lot better. And that is one of the reasons why we could be seeing Lost Box fall off a little bit and not make these top 8s, because Goodra can beat them. And with the Roxanne build, you're able to more consistently deal with bigger threats like the Rayquaza, where it's like Rayquaza you would think is bad because it blows your Goodra up, but when you just Roxanne them into a bad hand, it's really good. And it's just, Goodra's good, man, and it's starting to get those top 8s. I actually think you might have to respect Goodra going into Charlotte. I think it's going to be a lot more popular than it has been before. I think we're going to see a bigger increase in player amount of Goodra day 1 going into Charlotte. Whether that day 2 conversion happens, we'll see, but definitely I would expect to see Goodra maybe even be the 3rd most played deck in Charlotte. I actually think we could see that be a possibility. But yeah, it's looking like you might have to respect Goodra, and your deck might have to have an answer to Goodra now, because with those consistent top 8 placements, we could start seeing more people pick up Goodra, and who knows, Goodra might have to really be respected now going into Charlotte. Number 3 is Arc Dura. Arc Dura has also been getting pretty consistent top 8 placement. It's actually interesting that the number 4 and 3 spot have both been basically the big tank decks of the meta. And Duraludon has been doing good. I mean, it's a very simple, plain Jane deck, but it has been getting top 8 for a while now. I mean, we've seen Grant Shen get it. Obviously, Zach Lesage got top 8 at Vancouver, and we saw Duraludon once again get top 8 at Utrecht. Winning Utrecht, actually, I meant to say. It won the entire tournament. And it's a sign that Duraludon is starting to be a force to be reckoned with. It's another deck that people just usually don't really care about when going into a tournament. Like, if you're like, oh, I can't beat Duraludon, whatever, I don't need to beat Duraludon, it's whatever. But that's a pretty bad mindset to have, as Duraludon is a very good deck, and has been able to really started to just outshine even decks like Lugia, Reggie's Lost Box. Duraludon does have an okay matchup against Lost Box. The Dragonite matchup is a little tricky because of the Escape Rope boss Skysteel Stone on your Dura, but with the choice belt in the Dura deck, you're able to kind of shred through the Dragonite, and Belt is good too against control, which you might start seeing more control in Charlotte, who knows. But definitely Duraludon is on the upswing, definitely coming in the number 3 spot. Still a very vanilla deck, though, all things considered. It has contributed to the fall off of Lost Box, in my opinion. Both Goodra and Duraludon have contributed a little bit to, like, Lost Box not getting these top 8s recently, but for the most part, it's still like a flimsy deck against like Lugia and Mew. It's not a guaranteed win against either of these two decks. Mew with Path can still be a tough matchup, and probably still a really bad matchup. Or not a really bad, just a tougher matchup regardless. And then Lugia can be 50-50. It really comes down to their vacuums and the Paracel sticking and, you know, all that good stuff. So even like Lugia will still end up being a tough matchup here and there. But the deck is still fine. I mean, it just takes those 50-50s to Lugia. It can still beat Mew, but still can struggle against Mew at the same time. It's kind of in the middle there between good and bad against Mew, because Mew can beat Dura when they have Path and Echoing Horn. It can be very difficult to beat it, but Duraludon definitely is showing signs of being a pretty good deck right now, and I think, once again, because of its consistent placements recently, I think you have to respect Duraludon now going into Charlotte. It's another deck that people might just play because it's easy to play, doesn't really require, you just kind of turn your brain off when you play this deck, is what I'm basically saying. It's not hard to play this deck at all. It's pretty easy to play, which is potentially another reason why people might play it more likely in Charlotte, because it's been doing well, easy to play, seems like a good recipe for me to bring it to a regionals. Now, the number 2 spot is actually going to be Mew. Now, Mew going all the way up to number 2 is definitely interesting, as, again, it's been performing pretty well recently, and I think Mew is in a prime position right now going into Charlotte. Mew has a pretty good matchup spread across the board now, especially having a pretty okay matchup versus Arc Dura and Goodra. That's one of the things that makes Arc Dura and Goodra kind of like 50-50. It's like their Mew matchup is a little flimsy, and I think that Mew is primed right now to actually be pretty good. And Mew, I think, has kind of figured out the Lost Box matchup using the Judge. But also, we've seen the Flying Pikachu Mew deck be a possibility, too, to beat Lost Box. So I think Mew has really started to crack down on the Lost Box matchup and has kind of figured it out more or less now. And I think Mew is definitely in a pretty decent spot going into Charlotte. In fact, I think it's actually at the number 2. And I think Aerodactyl Mew is still maybe the most optimal way to play Mew right now, as I think it has the better matchup versus Lugia over any other Mew deck. The Aerodactyl is really good against Lugia, and the Aerodactyl is really good to have in general, and I think that definitely the Mew Aerodactyl deck is the best way to play Mew right now, and I think that Mew is in a great spot. If you want to play something that has a pretty okay matchup against Goodra and a pretty okay matchup against Duraludon, I definitely think Mew is a great deck to bring to Charlotte. It's another deck that a lot of people are very comfortable with, in my opinion. Again, it's a long-lasting deck. It's been around for a while. A lot of people are just used to it by now, so it's definitely a decent pick for the Charlotte Regionals, and this could be a very big deal because, again, with the popularity of Goodra and Duraludon and them doing so well, this could mean that, hey, might be a great opportunity to pick up Mew and play it again. So that's why I did put Mew at the number 2 spot. Again, I think Mew also has a pretty okay matchup against Lugia, thanks to the Path and the Aerodactyl being pretty annoying for Lugia to deal with, especially when you can Technoblast their only Lugia in play. It's just a pretty solid matchup, in my opinion. I think Mew definitely can beat Lugia with this Aerodactyl Path build, and I think it's decent. And with all the good matchups Mew has, Mew could be primed to be in a really good spot going into Charlotte. And to no one's surprise, number 1 is, of course, going to be Lugia. Lugia is obviously the deck to beat right now. It is the best deck in the format. And going into Charlotte, you still got to be Lugia. Now, I think Lugia definitely has to kind of adapt to what the meta is right now. Lugia does have an okay matchup against Goodra, in my opinion, and I think can beat Arc Dura, too. It's not that bad against, more 50-50, but I think Lugia is going to have to start playing, like, double vacuum again. mainly because of like Big Parasol's popularity in the Arc Dura. If Arc Dura is more popular, I definitely think you have to respect Arc Dura. We could even see some other spicy Lugia decks. There's a lot of ways to play Lugia, a lot of things you could run in the Lugia deck, which could definitely attribute to Lugia being good. Lugia has started to toy around Path for a while now too. Path could be something that we see Lugia play to help versus Arc Dura, and even could help against Goodra to shut off that V-Star power. And I think that Lugia playing double vacuum is going to be very important, because again, you need the double vacuum for the Evil Tall against Big Parasol, especially against Arc Dura. We'll have to see where Lugia goes going into Charlotte. I definitely think Lugia is still favored, and I'm still interested to see people cook up some spicy Lugia decks and what techs Lugia could start playing and how it adapts. But yeah, Lugia just obviously still going to be number one no matter what. It is the deck that can beat everything, and I think that it's still obviously the deck to beat. It's going to be the most popular deck, the most played deck. A lot of people are going to play it regardless of how good you think the deck is, or if these decks that are rising in popularity like Goodra and Drowdon can really beat it. It's still good, and Lugia can beat anything in the room. Whether or not the deck is technically favored against it, it still beats everything in my opinion. That's what makes Lugia so good, and that's why it will continue to be the most played deck going into Charlotte and probably the future tournaments until we get rotation. But that is it for the top 5 ranking. What do you think of the top 5 ranking? Do you agree with the top 5 at all? I think it was pretty decent. Again, with the recent results of the past couple tournaments, we've seen Goodra and Duraludon perform even better, performing better than Lost Box, which is kind of insane. So Lost Box has fallen off. I still would expect to see a lot of Lost Box, regardless of whether or not it's getting top 8. People are still going to play it, and people are going to come up with different ways to play it, which is something that you have to also be prepared for when going into Charlotte. But I'm excited for Charlotte. I'm going to be attending. Most of the Shuffle Squad will be there too, so don't be afraid to come up and say hi if you see any of the members at Charlotte. But that'll be it. If y'all enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and again, leave a comment what you think of the top 5 ranking, and that'll be it. Peace out.
The Shuffle Squad is proudly sponsored by Atlas Collectibles, the best place to buy any trading card game product online. Visit atlastcg.com, and at the checkout screen, make sure to use code TSS12 to save an unbeatable 12% off your entire order. Atlas Collectibles will ship your product anywhere in the world, so make sure you're taking advantage of the 12% savings with TSS12. And if Pokemon is not your thing, don't worry. Go to atlastcg.com and see all the other amazing trading card game products they have there to offer.
The Shuffle Squad is partnered with ptcgo store to provide our community with the best access to Pokemon TCG codes. They have codes available 24/7, instant email delivery, and you can save 5% off by using code TSS5. If you're a YouTube member or Patreon supporter, you'll have access to a special code that gets you 10% off. So what are you waiting for? Use code TSS5 today and save 5% on your next order of codes on any codes available at ptcgostore.com.
Are you trying to be the best like no one ever was? Now is your time. Head on over to metafy.gg and search out all our amazing Pokemon TCG coaches, where you can book all sorts of training plans ranging from deck help to full season sessions with your favorite coach. What a great way to up your game. Check out metafy.gg in the description below and take your game to the next level. Challenge yourself against trainers from around the world to compete for the biggest online prizing yet.
Are you ready for an unbelievable tournament unlike anything else you've ever seen before? The Shuffle Squad is proud to announce our newest tournament series, the Late Night Event, with an amazing grand prize that's bound to have you excited.
Players can compete via play.limitless.tcg.com's online tournament platform every Tuesday to get a chance to earn weekly prizes. And every week, your placement in the tournament is tallied by points based on your best finishes to earn your rank for the Late Night Invitational event.
The series will be conducted starting February 7th of 2023 and carry all the way through to the Invitational on July 9th of 2023, where the top players will be rewarded the grand prizing.
And the grand prize is a signed jersey and photo op with the entire Shuffle Squad, as well as a fully paid trip to the Pokemon World Championships in Yokohama, Japan. This includes hotel and airfare, whether you're a player or a spectator.
Don't forget to check out all the live coverage on our YouTube and Twitch channel of the top cuts of these events for every week. And subscribe so you can get notified where to watch the Late Night Events Invitational, brought to you by the Shuffle Squad. Now get out there and start winning. We'll see you in Japan.